All right, let's get into it. Today, we're talking about something truly massive, India's Smart Cities mission. We're going to look at how one of the world's fastest growing nations is trying to completely remake its cities, really, from the ground up.
So let's just start with the big question, right? How in the world do you even begin to upgrade an entire country's cities for the modern age? This isn't just about putting up a few new buildings. We're talking about a huge national push to make cities work better for literally hundreds of millions of people. It's a task on an almost unimaginable scale.
And this shot from Pune, it just perfectly captures the whole story. You see the vision, these new, clean, clearly marked lanes for a modern, organized city. But right alongside it, you have the beautiful, chaotic, everyday rhythm of Indian life. This is the real, complex world where this whole smart city idea has to actually work.
Okay, so to really get a handle on the solution, we first have to understand the problem. What exactly are the challenges that this mission was created to solve in the first place?
Well, India's cities are just growing at an incredible pace, and that creates a whole host of issues. We're talking everything from traffic that can bring a city to a standstill, to public services that are stretched to their absolute limit, and at the same time, this urgent need to save centuries of history that is, in some cases, literally crumbling. And this, right here, shows you that double-edged sword perfectly. It's not just about shiny new tech. I mean, look at this forgotten heritage water body, or the roof of this historic church. The challenge is just as much about saving the old as it is about building the new. So how do you innovate for the future without just bulldozing the past?
And here's why all of this is such a big deal on a national level. This quote really gets to the core of it. For years, the central government has seen its cities as the main engines of the entire country's economy. They're just too important to let them fail, which is why there's this huge top-down push to pour money into them and try to guide how they grow.
So you have these massive, complicated problems. What was the government's big answer? It was this: the Smart Cities mission, which kicked off back in 2015. And the scale of this thing is, well, it's just staggering. We are talking about nearly 7,700 different projects spread across 100 different cities. This is not some small pilot program. This is a full-blown attempt at national transformation.
Now, what's really interesting here is how they define smart. In India's case, it's not just about fancy sensors and AI. The real idea, the core goal, is to use all that tech as a tool to make daily life genuinely better for the people who live there.
And this whole vision rests on four big ideas. It's not just about making services run more efficiently, but also making sure they're environmentally sustainable. It's not just about making a city a nice place to live, but making sure it's inclusive and works for absolutely everyone.
Okay, so that's the big idea. But what does a smart city actually look like when the rubber meets the road? Let's check out a few real-world examples of how these ideas are playing out.
This is such a cool example of what you might call smart heritage. Over in Chandigarh, this historic house, designed by a famous architect, was basically falling apart. But through a really careful restoration, it's been brought back to life as a museum. That's smart because it uses resources to save a piece of the city's identity and turn it into something new for everyone to enjoy.
Now for something a bit more high-tech. I know, this diagram looks complicated, but stick with me. It's basically the digital brain behind the public bus system in the city of Bhubaneswar. It's an Internet of Things network that connects everything, the buses, the bus stops, the passengers, all of it, to one central hub.
So let's just break down how that works. First, you've got sensors everywhere, collecting data. That data gets zapped over to a control center in real time. There, they crunch the numbers to figure out traffic patterns and predict, pretty accurately, when your bus is actually going to arrive. And then, this is the best part, they push that info out to you on an app. What does that mean for you? No more standing around wondering if your bus is ever going to show up. And check this out. This is what happens when you get urban design really, really right. This chart shows how far people travel to visit this redeveloped food street in Indore. Look at that. More than half the visitors are coming from over a kilometer away. Some are coming from more than 20 kilometers.
It just proves that when you create a public space that's fun, safe, and easy to get to, you're not just improving one little neighborhood, you're creating a destination for the whole city. Okay, so those case studies show some incredible potential. But as you can probably guess, the reality of trying to roll out thousands of projects in 100 different cities, well, it's messy. There's often a big gap between the shiny blueprint and what actually happens day to day. So on one hand, you have the vision, right? Perfectly integrated tech systems, beautiful public parks that everyone loves. But on the other hand, there's the reality. Constant struggles with just keeping things working, dealing with vandalism, and, just getting people to actually use the new stuff. And you see these same problems popping up over and over again in city after city. A project might look amazing on day one, but if there's no plan or money for maintenance, it can fall apart fast. In places like Shivamoga, things like smart poles were vandalized. In Newtown, some of the high-tech gear like Wi-Fi hotspots were found to be broken, or just nobody was using them.
And this image from Jabalpur just says it all, doesn't it? You can build a beautiful modern path for people to walk and bike on, but if it's not maintained and really adopted by the community, well, it can end up being used for something completely different. It's a huge lesson that being smart has to be about more than just the initial construction.
So when you add up all the wins and all the challenges, where does this massive urban experiment go from here? What are the big lessons learned? I think the most important takeaway is this. The Smart Cities mission isn't a simple pass or fail. It's a gigantic, real-time science experiment. It's a learning process on a scale we've never really seen before. Every project, whether it's a huge success or a total cautionary tale, gives you valuable information for what to do next.
And you can also see the thinking behind it changing over time. The first version, Smart City 1.0, was all about the tech. Then 2.0 was more about the city government taking the lead. But the real goal where everyone wants to end up is Smart City 3.0, a city where the people living there aren't just using services, they're actually helping to create and shape their own communities.
And this quote really brings it all home. It doesn't matter what the tech is or what the project is called, it all comes back to these 6 things. At the end of the day, success isn't about how many sensors you have, it's about whether you've actually improved the lives of the people in the city.
And that leaves us with this final, really important question to think about. As our cities get more and more high-tech, the real challenge isn't just making them smarter. It's figuring out how to use that smartness to make them more human, more fair, and strong enough to handle whatever the future throws at us. Thanks for tuning in.